Thanks, Sally. Yeah, as I already said earlier, when I made the commentary, when all of the club representatives were here, well done on everybody for attending to this symposium. I think the more of these sorts of things that you can do, the better. I also want to say thanks to Sally, not just for this particular forum today. I know that Sally's very passionate about supporting students and making those connections into industry and making better engineers for the future, and I really appreciate it. So, for me, just a little bit of background before I talk about things that I think that businesses like mine are looking for. As Sally said, I graduated from UWA with a mechanical engineering degree at the end of 1991. And that was the year after Paul Keating, who was the Treasurer at the time, had announced that we were in the grips of the recession that Australia had to have. At the time that I attended my graduation ceremony, which was held early the next year, 1992, about 60% of my classmates had yet to find a job, and I was one of them. Why I mention this is to give you all a little bit of perspective, and importantly, some hope. Because, you know, I understand that at the moment getting a job as a graduate engineer is not as easy as it used to be. The economic climate is different now than it was back then. There's different pressures, but the consequences at the moment are a little similar. And you may find it tough to find some work, but I don't want you to assume that that means that you can't or won't succeed in the future. Two of the people from that 1991 graduating class, myself being one of them, went on to found Momentum Engineering in 2005. Our business currently employs 60 people. We had at our peak employed 100 people. So we're an SME, which basically means a small, medium enterprise. So we provide engineering and design services primarily to the energy, oil and gas sector. And to do that we employ engineers and designers, designers being draftsmen, including graduates. So in terms of the sort of things that we look for in our graduates, I asked our delivery manager, engineering manager to put some thoughts together, and then I added some of my own thoughts. So number one, I would say, is flexibility. These are not necessary in particular order, but I'll just call them number one anyway. Is flexibility. So our workload can vary. So I think an important thing in today's world as an engineer, you need to be flexible with the working hours. You need to be flexible to work overtime when it's required, less when it's not, and you need to be open to other opportunities, working in other offices, site roles, travelling, working in different environments. It's not just about being at a desk or being at a particular site. You need to be open. Related to that, I guess, is adaptability, slightly different in that we often like engineers who are prepared to work outside of their own discipline. You know, within our space, we're quite small. There are opportunities to support some of the other discipline engineering teams. So if you're a mechanical engineer, you might end up assisting the process engineers if there's certain tasks that need to be done. You'll always be supervised by, and the work will be checked and finalised by an engineer of the appropriate discipline. But you know, we want well-rounded engineers who understand different things. So you just be open to, you know, don't come in and say, I'm a civil engineer, therefore I look after these things. You need to be open about learning new things. And you've all got the capacity for that, intellectually. The third thing, ability to build relationships, and there's been a bit of talk about that already today. You know, we have opportunities to be client-facing. You will very fast in a small enterprise be thrust into a position where you are talking to clients and client representatives. And I think it was mentioned before, they're people, so treat them like people. You know, treat them with respect and be professional, but treat them like people. You know, we need our people to be able to build positive working relationships with our clients. So that's the sort of thing that we're looking for, people who can strike up some rapport relatively quickly. The comment that was made earlier about being able to tell stories, that's really good. You know, and just practice that. You can practice that with your friends. Just, you don't have to say, I want to practice with you my storytelling. Just tell them a story. Tell them about today and see if you can keep them engaged. Don't tell them that you're practicing storytelling with them. I'm not suggesting anything as daft as that. Attitude. Willingness to gain experience, take on responsibility, and to extend yourself, to go that extra mile, to arrive early, stay late, those sorts of things. A good example of great attitude that we had earlier this year was when our graduate process engineer, he was in the office. All of the senior process engineers and the lead engineer were all out of the office. We got a phone call from a client, an oil and gas client. He wanted to talk to somebody about doing some simulation work. Nobody was there. The phone call got put through to Nick. He took it, he listened, he arranged a follow-up meeting, he went and had the meeting, he talked to his lead engineer when she came back, and they got the work, and he's been tic-tacking and client focal point since. And that's the sort of thing that you need to be able to take on, not sort of push that away. Humility. Ask for help. The learning curve is really steep when you come out of university into industry. You will have time to investigate and learn things. You're not expected to know everything. Ask questions, no silly questions. Somebody else mentioned that earlier. Work ethic. Be willing to take on additional responsibilities. Use your initiative. Skills, I think, was been mentioned before. Skills in word processing, data manipulation, software, stuff like Excel. That's always very, very helpful. Finally, values. We, and I believe most smaller, medium-sized enterprises, and probably most of the big ones too, would like creative people, and you are creative people. Engineers are creative people. You're problem solvers. That's what you are. Who are team players, and that act with integrity. So if you say you're going to do something, make sure that you do it. If you can't do something, say so. Those sorts of things. You might notice I haven't mentioned academic results. They matter as well when you're applying for a job. But to be honest, we're far more interested in what you do outside of your core, like was already mentioned before. We expect that UWA produces graduates of a certain technical capability. Same with Curtin, the same with ECU, same with Murdoch. That's all managed. You're coming out with the right capabilities. It's attitude, it's those extra things. It's are you part of a club? Are you volunteering? What do you do to help out on the monetary side? What do you do in your job? All of that sort of stuff. And try to work out ways to get that information across. In terms of our hiring for this year, we're not fixed and rigid about what we do. We're too small. We've got to be adaptable. So we don't have a staff of HR personnel. If you apply for a position with a company like mine, you can very much expect that it's going to be reviewed by the general manager or maybe the general manager's assistant, and there'll be some screening that'll get done initially. And like Anne said, if there's a spelling mistake or you use the wrong name on the first page, there's a good chance that it'll just go, not enough attention to detail to work in an engineering office like ours, and it'll get put aside. Just by way of concluding from our point of view, so we are planning at this point in time to take on some graduate engineers in the new year. So I would encourage you to keep an eye on our website and our LinkedIn page. We'll probably be announcing something about that around October time. I would encourage you to apply if you're interested in being in that engineering and design space. But at the time, take the opportunity to try and show how you are different, how you are you as well. So that's about it from me, I think. Thank you.